Start the dance moves. Beautiful people. It is a momentous day in the history of the Gym Member Machine podcast because we are joined by one freaking handsome devil. My God, if you are not watching this on video, you are missing out. And now everyone jumps to the video to see, like, is he just being sarcastic? Is this guy like
He's being
ugly as
sarcastic.
shit?
Yeah.
No, he's a very handsome fella, formerly of the man bun Viking lineage, and now into you could be an Abercrombie model, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. We're joined by one of my favorite humans on planet Earth, Kyle von Karlowitz, a longtime gym owner, we talked about cult gyms. Dude, Kyle ran a freaking cult of a gym for what, a decade or so out in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio. And then at some point, I twisted your arm and was like, hey, you want to move across the country and leave this gym? I'm kind of doing this like gym coaching marketing agency thing, and I think you'd be awesome. Come do stuff with me, and maybe we'll make some money together. And now, Kyle has been a part of the team here at GMM for like 3 or 4 years. I should know that right off the top of my head doing the intro. Do you know? Do you want to say that, or do we just 4?
It was
4.
22. I think it was 22. Yeah.
Yeah,
4 plus.
entering your redshirt senior year of eligibility here. But Kyle, he is one of my favorite humans on planet Earth, partially just because I love his personality, but also partially because he cares so much about the gym owners that we work with and our business and how we use that business to serve the gym owners that we work with. And he probably has a better sense, boots on the ground, of what is going on in gyms every day than anyone we know, right? Ran our CS department, now is doing more in terms of product development and talking to gym owners every day, both people getting to know GMM and long time and not so long time clients of ours. So he's got a ton of context that I thought would be super valuable alongside his lovely personality to be a great part of the show. And we are going to dive into what we see at GMM inside of 350 plus gyms that owners can't and sometimes don't want to look at. So we're going to share what winning gyms are doing that losing gyms aren't, what losing gyms and losing gym owners are doing that they should stop doing, because I said this earlier, I think one of the best ways to start winning is to stop losing. You kind of have to stop digging the hole first. And so we want to dive into that today to share some things that we see from gyms that maybe aren't doing as well. Kyle, anything to add to that before we hit them with the juice?
No, man, nothing crazy other than I appreciate the intro. You're always entirely too kind. I feel like you took infinitely bigger of a gamble on bringing me on than I did on coming on. But yeah, man, the stars aligned. Like you've said before, I've chased wifey across the country to move to a spot that we always talk about moving to, and doing so close down the gym, and had an opportunity here, and it's been awesome. I genuinely enjoy in my heart and soul, potentially to an obscene degree, working with gym owners. Like, it's just such a cool space to be in, and just really good humans that give a shit about other humans. That's why most folks get into the business. And so I'm stoked to chat. Hopefully it's worthwhile for some folks. And yeah, away we go.
All right, the first one, lovely gym owners in this little series. And we chatted and debated on what we should dive into first. I think this is a great one to kind of kick things off with, is losing gyms and losing gym owners. They just don't confront the brutal facts early enough. They don't confront the brutal facts fast enough. And they let these things that really might be like yellow or orange problems turn into glaring red houses on fire problems at times, and let things get worse than they should be. But it's confronting the brutal facts. I think it's a concept from, I want to say, Pat Lencioni, on making sure you are confronting the brutal facts in your business. But Kyle, you want to hit us with some examples or unpack how these gyms are doing this?
So yeah, and as I do that, I'm always curious and like to pick your brain on these things too. If it's is it just blatant ignorance? Is it a perspective thing? I've seen that be the case too. And as we get in, that answer might vary on some of these things, as some people are blind to the things that are right in front of them, and so it's just sometimes a perspective change, and sometimes maybe willful ignorance isn't a misplaced term here. So some examples could be a poor employee. Gosh, especially if you hire a friend or somebody you're close with, it is so much easier to turn a blind eye or really just not see the things that are potentially right in front of you. A weak offer. And really what I would be getting at there is like, what's the data say? Data should drive decisions, right? Otherwise, we're left to our feelings and emotions, which are, hey, great to have in your life. Maybe you shouldn't be making decisions based off of those. But and I'm sure there's more there from an offer perspective. Broken funnels an extension of that in the data. What is or isn't working, or lead flow down to book, down to show, down to sold. Or retention would be another point that I want to be taking a look at. Declining cash, boy, a simple one, but a biggie. And then sometimes people will zoom out and be like, yeah, if I actually look at the trend over the last 3 to 6 months, we've been down 2K every month for 6 months. And that adds up very quickly, becoming an issue, obviously. And then you just hope that somebody doesn't realize that too late in the game that it's irreversible at that point in time. Usually it's not. Usually you can fix your problems. And then I like this other point we have here. They hope instead of deciding, what is what's the term you use?
It's like hope is not a
Boy,
strategy. Is that it, or is it something
not a
else?
strategy. Yeah, there's a more offensive term there, believe it or not, that you spoke one point in time. It's
Uh,
but essentially mental masturbation, something to that effect. I'm just like hoping. So yeah, like hope is not a strategy, but hoping or I guess just processing or working through a decision before actually making a decision, taking action on the fucking decision. But just rehearsing the thing, talking about the thing, thinking about the thing, fantasizing about the thing without actually taking action on it, making a decision. But those are some of the examples that I'd love to dig in with you or jam with you and see if you any of those ignite a specific example that you've come across in your time.
yeah, I think those are all really good examples. The I think a lot of this starts with just having data, right? So I think one of the best points that we could make, that you made, is hey, like we data dictates decisions. I love that word, by the way. Data should drive decision making in intelligent businesses, and all too often, because I look at this now because I'm the grizzled old gray haired vet that's seen what feels like everything, although I get surprised, at least on a monthly basis at minimum. But I feel like I've seen a lot of what the industry is going to show me at this stage. And so I'm like, you're just being an asshole. And in reality, you just may not know what you should be tracking, right? And so some of it is just, I don't even know what my churn rate is. I don't even know what my lead to booking rate or book to show or show to close. So it starts with actually having a scoreboard. I think we've talked about that briefly in previous episodes before you were on. But, for the gym owner that's maybe not doing as well as they would want to be doing at home, it starts with tracking really simple stuff, right? So when it comes to your marketing, we want to know our leads. We want to know how many of those leads booked, how many of the leads that booked actually showed up. Of those people who showed up, how many of them actually bought? What did they buy and for how much cash? If they bought a trial or front end offer type of situation, how many of those people that bought that ended up turning into a membership, converting to a member for you? I want to know our number of referrals every month, right? I want to know that too. Like that's a big one. If we're not getting those, that might be a brutal fact that you need to confront. I want to know what we spent on our marketing overall. I think for most of us, it's like just the total number that you're spending on marketing. You don't have to get super granular. Like if it's you and you're a solopreneur, it probably makes sense to just go broad strokes on it to know what did it cost you to get those leads and get those members and so on and so forth. But that's your marketing data. And then on the business side, it's like, all right, we look at the P&L. We look at our churn rate. P&L for the uninitiated. Geez, I hope everyone listening has that. Just a profit and loss. Yeah, you should have an accountant or a bookkeeper that can help you pull those every month. AI at this point can probably help you do it relatively decently. Be careful trusting it completely, right? You probably want to go through it with a watchful eye of someone who actually knows how to look at a P&L first before you just blindly trust your favorite LLM to tell you this profit's amazing. But you've got to know your P&L. I like to know low attending members because that is a leading indicator of what I would argue is the most important number in businesses outside of your profit, which is churn. Uh, we're obsessive about churn here, and I think it makes sense for gym owners to be obsessive about it in their businesses. But if we know those numbers, they help you acquire other numbers that could be guiding decision making, right? So your churn and your average revenue per month per member, your ARM, well, you divide your ARM by your churn. Now you have your LTV, your theoretical lifetime value of a client, which can help guide marketing decisions and so on and so forth. But in just the basic stuff that I just said are things that when things aren't right, we should be confronting those things. What we see as an issue with some of these gym owners that aren't doing as well is, yeah, I want to, not only do I not confront the brutal facts, I spend all my time in industry doing things that aren't related to the brutal fact that's actually holding me back. Right. So it's like the lead data looks great. We're getting a ton of people booked. The show rate is where the bottleneck is. And I want to be focused on whatever, how many sets of bench press I'm programming this week, or we need to change women to ladies, or ladies to women, or whatever the hell, like some sort of micro piece of minutia on ad copy or whatever it is. Like we see that a lot. And if we as business owners, and this is hard, this is like pot, meat, kettle, can just say, wait, what's broken? What is most broken? What is the current bottleneck to the business that is keeping us from moving up to the next step? Not moving up to being the first publicly traded gym or whatever, but just moving you to the next step in your business journey. What needs to be fixed to be able to get me there, and just laser focus on that? Like, these gyms aren't doing that oftentimes, the ones that are losing. Do you want to unpack that? Is that just said and we can move on to employee stuff? What do you think?
Um, I do think it's said on the unpack thing. I think just some notes that came up as you're pontificating is awareness, man. The first step is awareness. So just being able to, I think, zoom out when in a world where it's so easy to get lost in the weeds from a programming perspective, or to distract yourself. And like every distraction is justifiable. It's wild what the human brain can do and justifies like, oh, I need to spend time on this while you're ignoring this gaping hole in the business. And again, some of it might be willful ignorance, and some of it might just be blind ignorance. You have no idea. In which case, like get a coach or into a program that will take the magnifying glass out with you when we're appropriate to see like what is broken, where is the hole in the bucket. Otherwise, you're just going to keep hemorrhaging. Is it members? Is it prospects? Whatever that is. Yeah, I love that. Well, very well said, Jer.
Well, nice. Look at me.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm debating a price increase story from today's coaching call or employee stuff.
Let's
Which
go
one
today. I
first?
love, yeah, proximity. It's fresh in your mind. What you got?
Yeah. So we've got one of our clients. I won't name drop, that started with us recently and has been in a tough spot, and the model does not match what he's charging anymore. It's a super common thing with folks that have been in business a super long time, right? So this guy's been in business for a while, and to his credit, he is attempting to do the things and moving forward with the things. And we're going to look up in 3 months and be like, he's come out of it. It has come from confronting the brutal fact. However, I think it's worth saying, like, confronting these brutal facts. Like, like, no one has issues confronting the lovely smells of lilacs and feel worth diamonds fucking facts, right? We don't worry about confronting the things that feel good. We worry about confronting the stuff that's tough, right? And so this guy, he's like dealing with a tough situation. He's got to raise prices in order to have the business basically survive. And it was a big conversation with him, and it's been multiple, but it's a big conversation with him. And today he's already made the decision, and he's moving forward on, like, we've got a whole system for how to raise prices on current folks. We try to avoid it when we can. When you can't, we're going to give you the playbook to be able to work through it as profitably as possible, because we've helped people do this a lot. Maybe that's its own topic for a future video. We'll give people some resources. Tease, like, and subscribe, and you won't miss it. But it's like the conversation, because we've got some freaking top G's on those group coaching calls. This is on a group coaching call where he's going through this. And you got folks that have opened multiple locations and been through this a lot. You've got folks that are some of our most successful clients that are opening up another location. And the bottom line, right, the baseline thing is, okay, we had to confront this brutal fact to just make the decision to start. And now it's like, oh, how do I do it? And when do I do it? And this, that, and the other. And it's at this point, you've got all the stuff, and it's just time to move. And sometimes with these brutal facts, like, it starts with a decision, and then you have to fricking move your feet, right? You got to do the things, and it's hard and it's challenging. But in this gym owner's case, I feel very confident that this individual is going to end up very successful, right? After being in a freaking trough, really, ever since COVID, with his model. If we don't do that, that business is probably shut down in
100%.
6 months, a year.
Not even.
Like,
I don't think it's that long. Yep. I think you're spot on. Yeah, and that all started with the awareness of it, and I think I have a very good idea of exactly who you're talking about, and the first thing to start of the conversation is just simple calculation and, math exercise, just one step above barbell math, so I don't wanna scare anybody away. I am not math proficient in any way, but just a simple math exercise to see, like, what do we need to be charging to maintain our business, and not only that, but be profitable and be healthy, and so we start with that awareness, that conversation, then the tough conversation, and there's a rip the Band-Aid off moment, which it sounds like he's on the precipice of ripping the Band-Aid off and moving forward with it. And again, what you mentioned, there's a way to do it correctly, delicately, if you will, where the people will not grab their pitchforks and torches, and they'll understand. Right. And then it's the thing that keeps the business going, right? So that you can continue to provide the service for them, provide a living for yourself and your family, et cetera. But it starts with that awareness, and then the actual, get the magnifying glass out and take a look, and get curious. Is like what actually needs to happen, what needs to be true in order for this business to be successful, and having a partner that can walk through those exercises with you, or like you said on the coaching call, where we can walk through that with you, like what exactly this needs to look like to be effective.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that.
very well said. And it's funny because we had this original topic, just for our dear listeners to know this, sort of broken out into it was going to be one massive video that would end up being freaking 8 hours long. I didn't even think about like, dude, one of the brutal facts that you may need to address as a gym owner is your pricing model correct? Right? Based
Yeah.
on your capacity and your expenses and everything else. The good news for everyone listening, I think our like boilerplate opt-in on every video is a pricing worksheet that you can get for free. You opt in, get the freaking worksheet, whatever, and it'll tell you whether or not you're charging enough for what your goals are in the business, combined with your expense structure and what things cost and what your payroll looks like, how many sessions are you running, et cetera, et cetera. Like we do that with every non-franchise. Franchises have their models figured out.
Mhm.
Client that comes through GMM, you can do it for free by opting in below. The other thing that I think is worth considering, whether it's with us or with we're friends with people that are doing great work in the industry, is like confronting the brutal facts is a lot easier when you've got someone who's confronted those exact facts,
Yep. Mhm.
ideally a multitude of times with positive outcomes. And so I think that's given this lovely individual who's been doing such a great job, like getting on the group calls and really diving into the thing, a fighting chance, because it's like, this feels insurmountable and scary to me, like so scary that I don't think I could do it. Well, he's being helped through it by a bunch of folks, not just us as coaches, but other people
Exactly.
in our program that have gone through the thing. So if you can surround yourself with people that have seen the, the freaking terrors in your journey,
Yeah.
the cracks and crevices and twists and turns that you don't even know exist yet. Well, that could be a super helpful thing to do. And maybe you should book a free 30-day trial with us to see if maybe we could be your guide on this journey. But enough with the pitches, Kyle. Tell me, give me a good employee story.
I kinda wanted to micro plug our coaching calls, so I'm gonna do it, you dick. It's not a pitch, but, like, it's just so cool to see. I'll yes and everything you're saying. It's so cool to see folks who've been 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 steps ahead of where somebody might be, that they can kinda pull a flashlight out and illuminate the path a little bit as somebody's walking through, so they're not sitting there trying to reinvent the wheel themselves. So it's not just us that they have in their back pockets as coaches. It's a community of folks who've been there and done the damn thing potentially a dozen times or more sometimes. So poor employee transition. How many stories we have on poor employees.
They've heard mine
Um,
in the dungeon episode.
yours is yeah, I was gonna say yours is potentially one of the better ones out there. But yeah, so like that's I don't know, and like maybe this language is strong, but might also land the point too. Poor employee I've seen be a cancer in a business more times than I care to admit. This person is the most proximal piece, assuming that you have somebody who's coaching your sessions for you, maybe alongside you, maybe separately or not. Maybe you're still fulfilling on some of those sessions. We do see owners pull themselves off the floor as well as out of the admin stuff or some of the first two couple things they try and get off their plate. But if you have an employee, a coach especially, who has proximity to your members and is not a good representation of everything that is your gym, insert gym name here, your brand, the way you guys do everything, um, your brand identity, if you want to call it that, just the way that you do the thing that you do, and they're not in lock and step with how you do those things. I mean, it. the very best case scenario, you have an issue. Worst case scenario, you have a cancer, and those cancers will spread. And I've seen toxicity spread, unfortunately, too many times. But again, if you have a relationship with that employee as you bring them on, you can go blind to that. And then you start to look at the data. Or God forbid you're not looking at the data and somebody forces you to, and you see like, oh shit, churn was 6%, and then 6%, and then 8, and then 10%, or double what it should be, or what industry standard is. You might need to be confronted with that data of like, hey, what's going on here? What do we think? Is it a fulfillment issue? Is the program that bad? Is there a coaching issue here? Is there somebody who just gets along great with a select amount of members and just really ostracizes and is not a great culture fit for a bunch of other members? Like, what's going on here? And so I'll pull up there and not get into a specific story yet, although we could if we wanted to. But yeah, I've seen that be an issue too many times. And the hope is that you catch the thing before the cancer spreads and it's incurable.
Yeah, the speaking from experience, right? The pain of letting that cancer spread is going to be infinitely more than any perceived pain that you think you're going to have by letting that person go. And sometimes it's not even letting the person go. Like last week's, I guess maybe it's a couple of episodes ago by the time you're watching this or listening to this to your listener, but like we did a whole episode on the crucial conversation framework, which is a great way to have these tough conversations. My favorite way to have these tough conversations, whether it's with clients or employees, or you want to be sneaky and use it on your wife, but not having the conversations and then taking the necessary steps, depending on how those conversations go and how behavior changes after that. You may be thinking, "Oh, I'll lose a bunch of members if they leave." Like, dude, you're going to lose the whole business if they don't.
Yep. Yep.
Brutal facts. All right, so we'll spare the dear listeners deeper horror stories on the individual employee stuff. If you want to hear mine, my guy left as a manager who ended up using the gym as his own personal harem and blah, blah, blah. Like you can listen to something about the autopsy of my first gym. It's an entertaining therapeutic episode. If you've not gone through that one and you want an individual employee story, but I think to bring it all home for our dear listeners, look, this starts with number one, having data, right? Having the important data, having a basic scoreboard in place. And then number two, searching for the brutal facts, being open to the brutal facts when they do show up on your doorstep, and ideally searching for them proactively so that you're catching things when they're not a giant issue, right? The other thing we want to catch ourselves and stop ourselves from doing is doing things that are busy, not productive, or that maybe feel
Mm.
productive, but they're not really moving the needle and solving any of the bottlenecks in your business. Oh, I really want to make sure that I'm doing the perfect caption type on my super fancy social media post on IG to make the font look like this and blah, 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 blah. When you haven't, your closing rate is god awful, right? And you don't know how to sell. Like, we should probably be looking at what does the data say? What does the data say the biggest problem is in the business right now? And then laser focusing on fixing that thing, get that thing fixed, and then reassess, right? Now it's okay. Let me look at the rest of the data. You have a churn issue. You're starting to get people canceling. You're getting less renewals from clients that are going to certain sessions or whatever it may be. Great. That's a brutal fact. We need to address that. Is it something with the team members? Is it something with the experience? Is there something else going on? Right. We need to really be detectives of the brutal facts. And that's what we see from the gyms that are winning and doing so well is they see the fact, oh, this is inconvenient. I wish I didn't have to deal with this. And I'm going to deal with it and move forward and come out the other side better for it.
I think that is honestly so well said. I think the folks who are doing this best, who are running wildly successful businesses, have just systematized and automated so much of this data collection, aggregation, interpretation that it becomes, I don't want to say they've removed all emotion from it, but it's just systematic. The data is what the data is, and then you make decisions based off the data. You don't have to sit there and huff and puff and get upset about it. No, you might the first time because the data could be staggering and potentially not in a positive way, and that might upset you, and hopefully it will set you to action, into solution. But that's it. Like that's where it starts. What exactly? What are your absolute non-negotiables that we're going to track every single month? Obviously, you're going to need some form of leads to booked, to showed, to sold. Like you said, what does your overall marketing investment look like? What is the CAC potentially on that marketing investment? Or your ROAS if you're running ads? What is your like? How many Google reviews Are your Google reviews going up every single month? Are you tracking referrals? What are those things? Do your employees get a scorecard? Are you auditing those sessions? Are you taking a look at a session attendance? So what are those things? I don't want to overwhelm because there's a time and place to potentially track all these, not potentially, but there's a time and place to track all of them. Probably not everything at once, but having scorecards, having systems in place to track that data, interpret that data, read it, and loop your team in on it, right? Especially if their KPIs are associated with that data and say, like, what do we need to do to improve? And then it's just become a game of inputs and outputs. And so if you can make things more robotic, kill the humans, let the robots take their jobs, more simplified, and just remove, like we said, data should drive decisions, remove the emotion from it to the degree that we can.
If you guys on the other side of this, you want help, you want to see and a second set of eyes on what your bottlenecks are, you can book a super duper high pressure call. You'll talk to either me or the more handsome guy that's also on the screen, and we'll have an honest talk about your business. Sometimes we feel like we're the answer to help you get where you want to go. Sometimes we don't, but you can book that call, figure it out, get a second set of eyes on things. Other than that, go confront the brutal facts, be a brutal
Mm.
facts detective, go make money, change lives. See you in the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Love you, bye.